I was absolutely shocked when Matt first told me about this story. Absolutely shocked, because I could not fathom such, in some cases, very deep player investment just being completely deleted by a company. I was even more surprised when I found out that that company was one of the big three.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do if when your users have put, it was 123 million in the first 2 years. It's been 2 years since that, with some dwindling revenue. So you're maybe looking at 150, 180, 200 million of user spend on in-game content that they're supposed to, enjoy because the game's alive. And then they just go, we don't want to do this anymore. We'll take your 200 million and run away.
Yeah, and this is the sort of thing that our primary egregious story today is a game you probably don't play.
Definitely
But
not.
there are many games that we are going to talk about today where people have been burned, and they're games you may have played or in a different timeline could have played.
Yep.
So this is just a major thing that's going to happen with our industry.
Yeah, effectively, what we've seen either yesterday or the day before is a canary at the bottom of the coal mine fall over.
Yeah.
And that's very important for us to look at.
So what happens when you just put a bunch of money into stuff? Like, if you think about a DLC, it's like, okay, I bought the DLC, I own the DLC, I play the DLC, done, happy, I'll always have access to my DLC. But what about, and it's not like Fortnite is going to shut down, but if Fortnite did shut down, what would happen with all the skins and the cosmetics? It's different. It's not like, I got a DLC for a single player game, and, as long as the, account servers and stuff are still there, there doesn't need to be multiplayer servers to maintain being able to play your single player DLC.
Yeah, but
as an example. So store mounts in WoW, skins in Anthem. Yeah. People spent money in Anthem, everyone. How's that turned out? Cars in Gran Turismo. If you got that Porsche 919 in, is it GT Sport? Not GT Sport, the previous Gran Turismo,
GT Sport,
where it costs $499. Now you get the new Gran Turismo, you gotta pay $40 for the same Porsche. And yeah, it's the same car in a new game or whatever, but you just start to think about, digital value. What does it actually mean?
Yeah.
And this is where we've got to go into this already happening, and then I think the extremely egregious example that of all people, bloody Nintendo have committed.
Yep. And it's like, there's an argument that maybe it wasn't Nintendo who did it, but it almost certainly was.
Yeah. So, Hyperscape, Ubisoft's Battle Royale.
Yep.
Which, in fairness to it, pretty good game.
Yeah, interesting.
It had its own points of differentiation in its design, but it is shutting down in April. So, anyone who showed support for that game through microtransactions, gone. Servers are off. Gone. That's it.
So, sorry, you just, you basically, you bought a ticket to a place that's now closed.
Yeah. Battleborn. I think that was a great little game. But, it added in some microtransactions post-launch, released May 2016. Fortunately, servers went down January 2021. Stuff's gone.
Yeah.
And it's not like, it's like, hey, the game's not viable. So it's not always 100% the developer's, fault or whatever. It's like a natural down-the-line consequence of a modern business model.
Yeah.
Where, because we're now only really at the stage where these games are shutting down more and more, and the time's actually passed, that we're going to find these issues. I think as well, a lot of this is business models that, based on League of Legends, based on, these super big popular games that realistically are not going to shut down for a very, very, very long time indeed.
Yeah.
Others come in, emulate that, don't find the same success, and while they didn't set out to screw over users,
they are doing so anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because people have used live services as an example. Well, I mean, games are permanent, live services are temporary. That's something we've all known. But people haven't really felt the latter just yet. Because you think about, digital ownership and digital value and how it comes in. And one of the first, I guess the thin end of the wedge was Steam. Yeah. Steam, you buy digital games on Steam. You buy your digital games on the PSN. You buy it in the Xbox Live Arcade, stuff like that. And that's okay, because those are massive platforms. There's also the fact that Steam aren't really a problem because, Gabe said in the past, if Steam ever goes down and they have a kill switch to make sure you can play all your games.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. That's something people will trust that because that investment's real. But then people have emulated this with live services going, oh yeah, well, it's the same thing. It's not, because live services can go down and they'll go down a lot more than platforms will.
Yeah. Sports games are an example of this being utterly brutal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just
sure.
insane. And a really mad example is NBA 2K20, where its servers shut down December 31st, 2021. 2 years after the game came out, servers are gone. So, like, if you bought shit in that game, you're a chump, in a way.
Yeah, and also, that's one case where if you bought extra stuff in the game, you're a chump, but also a lot of the gameplay is turned off now as well, so... Yeah. That is basically both cases of the game's gone, also all of your investment's gone.
Yeah, and of course then MMOs. If you think about some of the... Is it the D&D? Is it Neverwinter?
Yeah,
it's the one that's like uber pay to skip, like stupidly so. And this is a great example. Like, could you imagine putting money into that game? You're going to be so screwed when it eventually shuts down.
Yeah.
But now, of course, the live services are, they're monetizing heavier and heavier and heavier. We looked at the previous Gran Turismo game where it's like, yeah, there you go, car, $4.99. And the new one, where there's $3,000 worth of cars available to purchase because of the way that they've orchestrated the currency system. Now, this is a situation where, because of how expensive these cars are, where somebody could just spend, 20 quid to get the credits they need for a car, it's going to feel worse transitioning over to the new game.
That's right, yeah.
Worse and worse.
Yeah.
These are all beginning to be more worrying concepts, really, as they're trying to go heavier and heavier on Wales, because there are people who will just pay $40 because they want to drive that car now. Sounds wild to you and me, but there are people like that.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee of your investment being sound or being cared about as an investment. They're treating it the same way you're just renting a digital good. That's what it is. And
for something really weird, we got to look at Babylon's Fall. That's the Platinum Live Service game. Where, it's unprompted in a way. Like, obviously everyone's thinking it, but they say, this is just what they posted.
Yep.
Is the continuing service in danger? No, there are no plans to reduce the scale of development on Babylon's Fall. Content up to the end of Season 2 is now practically complete, and we've started work in Season 3 and beyond. We will continue to provide new content for this game and make improvements based on player feedback, striving to keep existing players playing and attract newcomers. We would like to thank all Sentinels already enjoying the world of Babylon's Fall, and they look forward to the future. It's like, obviously people are so worried about the state of the thing they're investing their time or money into, the developer feels like they need to do this.
Yeah, because if they didn't say that, and there's a rumor going, maybe they'll cut Babylon's Fall, then everyone playing Babylon's Fall will go, is this a good investment? Is my, X dollar purchase of this skin a good investment? I'm really liking the game, but what if it goes away? What if I don't get this to continue update? So they need people to believe the game will last a long time. Otherwise, the investment is not valuable. But the game won't last forever. Almost no game will. And that's the hard reality that we're going to wake up to one day, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, they did. So it's time to talk about Dragalia Lost, which is our canary in the coal mine here. So this is a game by Nintendo and Cygames.
Yep.
It is shutting down purely because it's not profitable.
That's what everyone's saying. Yep.
Very interesting. So this is a big middle finger to everyone's investment. And or a natural product life cycle.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is very orchestrated towards, give us money now. Future, think about that later.
Exactly.
The Dragalia Lost main campaign is scheduled to reach its conclusion in July of 2022 with Part 2 of Chapter 26, the final and climactic addition to its long-running story. After the main campaign has concluded, service for the main game itself will come to a close at a later date. They'll give details later.
And Cygames are, I looked at their wiki, they have more games that they've started and closed than before. Because they just go, we'll make this game. Okay, it's not doing so well, we'll cut it, we'll cut and run. And actually, one of the big examples was Princess Connect. Princess Connect, and I think, I can't remember the year, but it was active for like a year and a half, didn't do so well. They rebooted it later. Obviously, people whose initial investment there, all gone, and then found success eventually. So that's the one that's going to live a bit longer and get more success. But generally speaking, they will just go, here's the thing, put all your money in. Oh, not enough people are putting their money into this. Please give us more money. Oh, and we've cut it off.
Yeah, so as for some of the why here, well, in January 2020, Sensor Tower, which is like an analytics platform,
For apps,
they were claiming that it was making an average of $8.2 million a month, so $123 million over 15 months.
That's a lot of money.
But in 2022, it's down to making $200,000 a month, which is a lot less. And by all accounts, it's actually a really good game. People are sad that it's shutting down. It just was not a big enough moneymaker to continue being supported. And from a player, Dragalia Lost was too free to play with bad monetization. With Kaleido? Kaleido offering that many resources, and with how bad the shop is, there was pretty much nothing of value to buy. it's a miracle the game lasted as long as it did, honestly.
That is so interesting to me, because that means that, this game is being nice to players and not asking more money from them. Oh, it's not going to survive. Because it's just like, it feels like this really toxic thing where they're just going, well, we need whale money to keep this afloat. And if we can't get whale money, we won't keep this afloat. Which then means there's all this weird stuff like the players feeling responsible for it. And you just have to think, like, people put 123 million in 15 months into this. Because this isn't the case where you buy access to content. This is a case where you just do gacha stuff. You get your characters, you get your roles, you get your upgrades, all that stuff to keep the progression. And now you're like, oh, that money's all gone. All that money is just literally gone. Yeah. I mean, obviously Nintendo and side games have ran away with it. They definitely pumped some of it into development because it is genuinely a fantastic game. But it's just all that money. Just players have nothing to show for it outside of a couple of years of their memories, which is, that's okay for like a small game where you're buying the ticket, but not when you're buying a bunch of goods within it.
That's where it feels weird to me, just the fact that it is a gacha game and that they can cajole people out of a lot of money.
Yep. Indeed.
So it feels strange. Mm-hmm. And, some interesting language in the replies in the comments to this news from the game's players. Yeah. Saluting all the whales who poured their wallets to keep the games running an extra few months. Sad to see it this way. I enjoyed the ride while it lasted. You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I'm honestly shocked they're stopping updates so abruptly. I hope the servers still stay on for a long time, like the other discontinued Psy games.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Are players responsible for a product continuing? Are players responsible for continuing to keep this game afloat? When does it just feel like the developers are going, oh no, we're not making enough arbitrary profit to keep this alive for you, so we're just going to... Is it almost like, is the game being held at ransom? From the developer to all the players?
It's just the weird thing, because it's not like you can just download this and play the campaign regardless of servers. The whole thing is set up to be a campaign that you play through pretty much with some incentivization to, drop some cash and some gacha pools or whatever.
Yeah.
So then it's weird because a developer of a game shouldn't be mandated that they must support the game forever, because
obviously,
it's like you cannot know 100% for sure that you will even be able to do that in terms of, profitability, keeping the lights on, literally, stuff like that. So it just seems like this is something that nobody's really considered that well.
Yeah.
And that now that years are passing, we're at the stage where these projects are starting to get shut down, and it's this really stark realization of oh yeah, we did not buy that game.
No.
We got access to a theme park fun fair, and we got loads of tickets to do things within it. And we got loads of rewards that are only applicable within the theme park, but now the theme park closing, I've been booted out. And maybe it's just a stark realization that while you were buying things that you were playing with and enjoyed, that's all that you were buying, even though it kind of feels like you're buying a thing. You didn't buy a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a bit of a bitter pill, and it makes us think about what user perceptions of value and stuff like that are in games.
Because they constantly try to make it feel like an investment. They go, this game will be around forever. You'll have this strong character. Oh, FOMO. Oh, the character's going away. What if you want to play with them later on? That's where Genshin Impact makes millions and millions, billions of dollars. I think it was Raiden Shogun, and the Chinese revenue was literally completely insane. Because you want to play with this character? Limited time. You want to invest in this now, and you'll be able to play with them forever. But what happens when Genshin Impact goes offline? What happens when Fortnite does? What happens when Fate Grand Order or Grand Blue Fantasy, those long running games, what happens when they just go offline for the last time?
Yeah, so it's a funky situation, and we bring it up today just I suppose to remind people of what they're really buying in games.
Yeah.
And I think to show an example of, in a way, this system running as intended. I think you can say that their initial communications were a bit too blunt, but in reality, could any of us expect a game to just run in perpetuity forever? No. So a natural part of everything is going to be the game winding down, just that now we're in this extremely live service era where it kind of feels worse, and it's not like you're left with a game that you can play but not online, or a game where users can make community servers or do something like that to play online. It's no, the thing's literally gone and everything you got's gone.
Yeah, I mean, this has even been a case with this has been a case for a long time with MMOs and multiplayer games.
Yeah.
But that's time investment, which is fundamentally very different to big money investment, especially when that big money investment's coming from a place of almost psychological cajolement.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, please spend money on this. You're like, but what am I getting out of it? And they're just trying to find ways around giving it permanent actual value to you. It's almost like you're renting a house from a landlord, and the landlord's selling you a bunch of furniture, but you're not allowed to take that furniture with you. That's effectively what it feels like. You're just throwing a bunch of money into this pit, knowing it'll go away sometime.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not super aware it'll go at the time, and they have no communication of it whatsoever. Especially when it comes to something like Dragalia Lost, when players noticed the writing on the wall because the plot beats started to speed up, and people were like, oh no, we've seen this happen before. Does this mean they're pulling this close to an end? And it's like, yeah. But there's so many plot lines unfinished that you could see been finished. But instead, they're like, it's not making any money. Goodbye. Sorry, players. Thanks for coming along with the ride. This obviously also came as news to a bunch of people working on it. Because there's the whole English VO thing was really sad to hear this news. You're like, how do you not know what the hell? But it's just vile. It's like all this user investment isn't being respected. That's my initial feeling when it comes to this. You're just going for live services to make profit and not having the solution for users. That's ultimately it.
Yeah, it's like the exit plan is fine for the company, but it's not fine for the users.
Exactly.
It would be ideal if they could be taken better care of, and we should all just be aware of what we're truly buying when we buy things in and around games.
Yep.
That's really it for today. I don't think there's much else to say other than let this be a cautionary tale. Let Dragalia Lost be a canary in that coal mine. So have a think about that. Hope you found today's video interesting, and we will see you tomorrow.
Please go listen to the Dragalia Lost music. It's really good.